Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmarkator.
On today's episode, we are doing our fourth installment of The Way Home Season 4 listener mailbag, and it is a long one, so we're going to jump right into it. But the first thing we're going to do is remind you that if you would like to participate in future listener mailbag episodes, you can email us hello@girlsgonehallmark.com or leave us a voicemail, 949-329-8090. No, there's not a voicemail this week, just a plethora of emails.
Womp womp.
We have gone ahead and organized our episode in the same way we did last week, around subject rather than around email, writer, inner, although we are crediting everybody's comments, just because I think that makes more sense with this huge list of emails.
Yeah, and we can hit all the same topics without like
bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off?
Erin writes in about, quote, the one and bringing Tessa home. She writes, I think what they mean is that 1983 Griffin and 1983 Tessa jumped back to a year, presumably the 1800s. And are you guys writing all this down? And for some reason, 1983 Griffin jumped back to the future without her. Then for some reason we don't know, 1983 Griffin was not able to get back to Tessa because the pond takes you where you need to go, not where you want to go. So 1983 Tessa is stuck in the past, and no 1800 Landry with time traveling capabilities is able to get her back to the future.
Okay, I have a comment here.
I feel like I've just sat through an AP math exam.
So last week, I admit that I made a little bit of a mistake in my understanding of the issue with bringing Tessa home. I misheard what Kat was saying. I thought Kat was saying that Griffin took her there, and then for some reason, Griffin wasn't able to bring her back. I thought he went back and wasn't able to bring her back. And then she was saying, I can go bring her back because I'm from her same timeline. I rewatched that scene. That is not what she said. She just basically said that the Landrys of that time were not able to bring her back.
Okay.
So Griffin left her there. Obviously, the 1800 Landrys couldn't bring Tessa back because they can't travel forward. And so in lieu of Griffin going back, now Kat thinks she's the one who needs to go back and get Tessa. We got a lot of emails to this effect. I may have confused people more. I do understand what we're working with here. You?
I think no. And honestly, I don't really care because I think it's too complicated. I care, guys. I care. Please don't send your hate emails to me because we have a few of them. I care. It's just when it gets too complicated, my brain cannot.
Yeah, and how much does it actually matter in the enjoyment of the series?
Exactly.
Like, I don't need to understand 1.21 gigawatts to enjoy Marty McFly.
Exactly. And I just want to enjoy the series. I don't want to have to try to figure it out. It's not a race to figure it out.
That's true. That's true. But we do have 4 episodes that we need to recap.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I have no problem doing that.
It's like watching a mystery. I'm not actually all that interested in solving the mystery, nor am I ever going to solve those mystery movies ahead of time.
Jen writes in and she says, what if the one is the one who brings Tessa through the pond? I think most of us have been thinking about the one in terms of guarding the pond or changing time travel. But what if it is particular to Tessa and Fern's history?
There's a thought.
Jen also says, none of the Landrys from 1892 or whatever year it was until the 1920s can bring her back to 1983 because they cannot jump to the future. Tessa needs either Griffin or whomever she jumped with or another 1983 or later Landry to bring her back to her timeline. And Alyssa, wrapping up this category, writes, I'm starting to think that the one Fern keeps repeating is Alice's last name, Dewan. Everybody keeps mentioning that she says, but you're not a boy. This seems like a red herring misunderstanding that the show is known for.
All good thoughts. Let's talk Tessa. Y'all had lots of thoughts about Tessa. Jen says, Tessa seems too interested in the Landrys. 1979 Fern is correct. Tessa wants to marry into the Landry family. I'm also wondering if Tessa is lying about not knowing Fern in 1979 and she has already done some time travel and has met Fern before. Jen also says maybe she's a coil. Basically give her the backstory that everyone thought/thinks about Jasper. Thomas passed down the legend of the White Witch time travel in Port Haven. Michelle says, what if that matching handwriting in the almanac and Elliot's letter isn't Tessa's? What if it's Griffin covering Tessa's tracks because he left her in the wrong era and can't get her back? What if one of our main characters, Alice, Kat, or Jacob, are actually who took Tessa to the 1920s and left her there? She also says, is Tessa Cassandra, the Goodwin sister, or did Tessa masquerade at some point as Kat, aka the White Witch? Brittany says Tessa seems lost even in the late 70s. She seems to not quite know where she came from and envies those who have deep roots and feels she doesn't belong. I bet when Kat finds Tessa, she won't want to return to the present. And she says, did she marry Vic just to get access to the Augustine home? It's looking that way, but I don't want it to look that way. Vic said Tessa went through the entire house making it a home. It sounds like she was looking for the clock and didn't find it because she only had a vague clue. That's interesting. Finally, we see calculating behavior from Tessa, who steals from the more naive Coil of the series. I want it to be a misunderstanding, but she doesn't appear desperate here, and she seems to be manipulating Alice, too. Francisco says, something's up with Tessa. She's too nosy, and honestly, she seems like the type of person who'd snoop in your medicine cabinets. And Aaron says, the handwriting Kat is claiming is Tessa's, but we don't know for sure that it's Tessa's. We just know that it belongs to whoever wrote the letter. Was the letter written by Tessa, or was it written by someone else that wrote down what they know Tessa wanted them to say? The only other letter we have of, quote, hers is typewritten.
Yeah. That's what's frustrating with some of these episodes is they make these like leaps.
Yes.
Like they think they're fact, but we don't know for sure if they are fact or not.
And then we just start to accept them as fact.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you have any other thoughts about Tessa?
No, my head hurts.
Let's talk about Fern.
Okay.
Brittany wrote in and writes, I suspect an older Tessa befriended a younger Fern. Fern possibly believes that she's protecting Tessa, but later believes she was mistaken in their friendship when she becomes furious with a younger Tessa. Or is this explaining why Fern flips out when she sees that young Tessa?
Yeah, maybe there's betrayal in her past.
Oh, yeah, perhaps. Brittany also wrote, Grayson Goodwin is not just her fiance, but also her boss and her landlord. If they were to get married, he would inherit Landry Farms. What other powers does he have over her? It seems like it could potentially be a very toxic relationship.
Yeah. I would agree that we do not know enough about Grayson at this point. Because Fern, in that last episode, she said, it's not Grayson. Like, he's not the one responsible. He's not working with the Augie boys, all of that. But is she covering for him? Does she not know? I think Fern's a very unreliable narrator. She's always putting on an act.
Yeah. Aaron writes, and young Fern said that she's known the song Tainted Love for as long as she can remember. So obviously somebody taught it to her. Maybe Tessa? Maybe Tessa. Francisco writes in, as far as Fern goes, she came across to the average person as someone who was sundowning, so she can really avoid suspicion unintentionally that way. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So do the listeners know what sundowning is?
I don't know. It's only a term I've recently learned.
My understanding is that it's a person who is maybe experiencing some form of dementia. It's worse in the afternoon. That's why they call it sundowning, and they get more confused and agitated during that time period.
So Francisco thinks that Fern is putting that on.
Potentially.
People will stop asking questions.
All right. We have some thoughts from Alyssa about the baby by the pond. Alyssa says, I'm starting to think that the scene of two people leaving the baby by the pond is not Tessa leaving Elliot, but another event of a baby being left by the pond. If we look at the silhouette of the person writing the letter, it's clearly a woman with long, black, wavy, curly hair. From what we've seen of Elliot's mom, she has brown, straight hair, but we've seen Alice, after being in the pond, have wavy hair. Additionally, the person that jumps with the letter writer has short, brown hair. We are led to believe it's Griffin, but I think it's probably KC, who has shoulder-length brown hair. I'm willing to accept that it's not Tessa jumping in the pond. Are you willing to accept that it's not Elliot who's the baby in the basket?
Not at this point.
Like there's two babies that were left on the banks of the pond?
Yeah.
I'm not ready to make the jump, but I am willing to accept that maybe it wasn't Tessa in that moment. Alyssa also says it could be the reason that Fern made up the story of who the father of her baby is because she doesn't actually know. I'm thinking that if the scene by the pond is a separate baby being left by the pond, it could be that Fern found that baby and adopted it. But if Fern is a Landry, how does the Landry bloodline continue if she adopts a baby? Unless there's additional babies involved.
Yeah, I don't know. There are some Casey theories coming in. Are you interested in hearing them?
I am.
I mean, I don't know. Casey theories, it's
We haven't seen
episode
Casey in 4 episodes.
Jen writes in, maybe somehow Tessa and Casey met when they were more or less the same age and became friends. Casey tells Tessa about time travel and that they can take her to Griffin. Maybe at some point Tessa does find Griffin and Casey leaves them. Tessa and Griffin get married and have a kid who will become Casey. Okay, I feel like now we're venturing into fanfic.
Oh,
Don't you think so?
there has been a lot of talk about Casey recently because of this last episode. And one of the theories is further down in this discussion.
Okay. Jen writes in, my number one theory is still Casey is from further down the timeline, so can be all three bloodlines.
Meaning they're an Augustine, a Goodwin, and a Landry?
I mean, that's way down the time. Okay. Wow. Alyssa writes, the woman at the bar feels like she might be Jacob's future wife and potentially the mother of KC. I think KC is Jacob's child. In season 3, he told Elliot that he wants to have a wife and children. So this feels like a continuation of that. Erin says, the random girl at the bar talking to Jacob looks strikingly similar to KC. I don't take much stock in actors' appearances because it has to just do with casting. But if that's the case, they're trying to build, or maybe they're throwing out a red herring. It's very convincing. If the argument against that is the ring around Casey's neck, Alice could have gifted her ring to Jacob if he was wanting to propose but didn't have the means to buy a ring.
So I have a couple comments about that scene in the bar with the woman, the blowhard man, and the woman and Jake have a little bit of a connection. We were like, who's that woman? She's not in the credits. And as of the end of that episode, she was not listed on IMDb. And then the day after we recorded that episode, I texted Wendy because Spencer McPherson posted a picture with his wife. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this the same woman? And I sent it to Wendy. And you were like, maybe. And in the heat of the moment, DM'd Spencer and I was like, wait a minute, is your wife in this episode? And he was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen the episode, but did she sneak in? Because she was on set that day. And I was like, oh, that's not her. And so I explained. He goes, oh, he's like, that's a great actress. Her name is Holly DeVoe. And he said something like, fun things are coming.
Oh,
Then
spoiler.
Alexandra Clark had posted an image of the bar. And I was like, I need to know who was in the bar. Alexandra Clark commented, oh, there are a couple of people who are pretty significant at that bar. So there has been a lot of speculation that the woman in the bar is either a future Casey or the mother of Casey, somehow related to the character of Casey.
Okay, that's interesting.
Some people are like, is it Claire? Obviously, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about their conversation, and they were calling each other like old soul or something. Were they calling each other old soul?
Something along those lines, yes.
Yeah, but the vibes I got between them were like
romantic
and not like that's not a paternal one.
No. Nobody was saying that that's his child.
Okay.
They were suggesting it was a romantic interest.
Okay, cool.
Depending on who that person is. They're of the same age.
Who are the couple other people in the bar that are significant?
Well, the woman is one of them. And I don't know if the man is significant or...
Thomas.
Is she talking about Thomas in that case?
I don't know. That's all we saw in the bar.
That's all we
Never
saw.
saw anybody else in the bar.
So it's one of those two. Oh, let's take a quick break and we're going to come right back to talk more of your theories about the way home. Let's talk about the clock and the piano. Chris says, my new theory is that the clock might allow someone who's not a Landry to time travel, but probably only at 11:11.
Oh, I like that idea.
Chris also sent in a screenshot. And this was a screenshot that Sadie LaFlame Snow had posted of the lyrics to the song that Alice and Colton sing together. And Chris said, I'm particularly focused on that third verse, which says, so I just breathe, hope the water brings you back to me.
Oh, no,
and
you have to sing it.
Okay. And I wish for this wish to come true. Let the water bring me back to you. The theory about the clock allowing someone who's not a Landry to time travel, talking about the water bringing me back to you. Chris thinks that's particularly significant.
Oh, I thought the significance was a wish for this wish to come true. And we talked about wishes at 11:11.
Yeah, maybe it's all tied. But there's something there. I think there's something there too. I think the song has meaning. Aaron says the piano key.
Yeah.
This show never makes a note of something if it won't possibly be relevant some other time. What's making the piano key stick? Something hidden inside of the piano? Is that the piano from the speakeasy joint that is now in the Landry house?
Oh, love that.
I noticed that too. Elliot's like, oh,
Yeah.
weird. The key is sticking. And
We didn't mention it at all.
No, we
but
didn't. I remembered it when we got this email.
You want to talk about the almanac?
Okay.
Aaron writes, why, capital W-H-Y, was Elijah so concerned about losing the almanac in the fire to the point that he risked Jacob's life to get it back? What power does that thing wield? It was literally a pamphlet in the 1814/16 storyline. They could have just gotten another and rewritten it unless the almanac holds some sort of untold power. Michelle writes, Jacob left the past sometime in the early 1800s. Tessa must have been at the Landry farm when Elijah's son Jacob died in the late 1800s in order to have written the date. She must have met the Landrys and buried her suitcase at that time. She buried her suitcase in the 1800s? She had like a driver's license.
That she brought with her from 1983.
Oh, you're right. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it was kind of hidden. Mm-hmm. I mean, as hidden as you can get. Yeah. Michelle also writes, the Jacob Landry, whose death was listed in the family record, was the grandson of Elijah, the founding father. Elijah's son, William, who grew up with our Jacob as his older adopted brother, named his son, the one listed in the record, after him. This means both Jacobs were named after each other? ?
That's interesting.
That's weird. Mm-hmm. Super weird.
Let's talk about Nick. Brittany says, Nick found out about time travel from Elliot's journal, and he has had an entire year to stew about real time travel. So him being excited to actually go does not seem at all out of character for him to me. He probably feels like a Goonie and Marty McFly and Bruce Lee or the Karate Kid all wrapped into one. I have some thoughts about Nick that we'll hear in this week's episode. Alyssa says, when Kat was saying she was going back to the 20s, Alice said it wasn't safe and Nick volunteered to go. I loved when he said, I'm going into the time machine. Again, it brought some comedy into the episode. Jen says, I'm really hoping that the writers of the show just want someone besides Elliot, Dell, or Alice to travel with Kat to spell things out for the audience. Since she is no longer trusting Fern, Nick is good at being the person to ask for recaps and get things spelled out.
You guys are onto something here.
And Brittany says, I was glad to see Nick, but I'm sure we won't be seeing much of him anymore very soon. He either gets trapped in the past and stays with Fern, or he's one of the 5 good men who goes into the tunnels. Is he going to be the one who doesn't come out?
Well, if he doesn't come out, then then he'd be dead in the future, no?
Not now, though. Like, he'd be dead after what we've seen him, but like, he's not going to go back and eliminate. Like, if 2026 Nick goes to the past, it's not going to like erase him like a photo if he dies in the past.
Marty McFly style?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to work that way.
Okay. Speaking of the tunnels and the explosion, 5 went in, 4 came out.
5 went in and then 4.
Brittany writes, someone gets shot by someone with Grayson Goodwin's gun. Inspector Kane seems dissatisfied with his job and wants to do a big bust. He, like Nick, is looking for some excitement. Brittany also writes, it also seems odd that Fern can just pay bail for someone who has no identity when bail is supposed to be set for people with upcoming court dates.
I mean, look, Inspector Kane is just running this whole operation by himself. So he's probably like, whatever, take Kat off my hands.
Yeah. He's like, I kind of have a soft spot for Fern, so she can just do whatever she wants.
I got bigger fish to fry here with these Augie brothers. See? Mm-hmm. Tap, tap cigar out of the side of my mouth like a cartoon villain. Danjanot, nothing but love. Jacob, let's talk Jacob. Francisco says, ugh, Jacob. He's imagining Thomas. Go back to where you came from, Thomas. Hold your tongue, Francisco.
Francisco, I thought you were on our side.
And doesn't seem to realize him being away isn't doing the family any good. I wish Elliot had slapped him across the face like Vito Corleone did to Johnny Fontana in The Godfather. All Jacob does is whine. Francisco, they're going to come for you next week's emails.
Yeah, if you're, please, in the subject line, write in regard to Francisco, so we know that it's not directed at us, because we did not say it.
Jacob is dealing with a lot of trauma. He has caused his family a lot of anguish, but I have a needlepoint project that says, are you mad at me? I can understand Jacob being like, they don't need me. Like, I'm hurting them.
Yeah, I can definitely understand.
These Enneagram 9s, man.
POV.
Alyssa says, finally, Elliot from season 1 makes a rare appearance. He apologized to Dell and went to have a heart-to-heart with Jacob about coming home. I don't love that we had to browbeat him into being the old Elliot by reminding him of Dell's losses, Jacob missing twice, and the miscarriages she had before Kat to do it. Brittany says, the bits with Jacob hallucinating were interesting. Hopefully this foreshadows Jacob's return to Port Haven. Now, do you consider him hallucinating? Or is it kind of like...
No, I think it's like if you were talking to yourself, that like Thomas is the reflection of like, maybe not the reflection of yourself.
But the angel on your shoulder, the devil's advocate, so to speak, the alternate perspective. And it's fun for us to see Thomas again.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think it would hold any weight to it if he was just talking to some random, like...
Looking at himself in the mirror.
Looking at himself, talking to some random bar manager or some random customer.
Yeah, if the bar... patron who's in there getting a drink and Jacob's like, yeah, I can't go home. And he's like, well, maybe your mom misses you. Like, doesn't have any meaning.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Dell and Sam.
Okie dokie.
Alyssa writes, I don't love that Dell torpedoed her relationship with Sam because of Nick's dad. Julian is smarmy and fake. When she was saying that Sam doesn't care / fight for their relationship, I was thinking, maybe he just trusts you and doesn't have to worry that you cheat on him. How do you feel? Do you feel like bad for Sam that Dell kind of like blew up their spot?
I didn't think Sam had done anything wrong.
Me neither.
I didn't find him to be, I said this in the episode, I didn't find him to be taking advantage of her. I think being comfortable in a relationship and not getting up and being like, that's my lady, move on over, Julian.
Goals, baby. That's what you want, right?
Yes.
Just somebody that he just wants to hang out with her.
I think Dell was being self-destructive.
Totally. Francisco, guys again, for Francisco, those emails, he writes, Dell's annoying. Heaven forbid 2 older people can be comfortable. What'd she want from Sam? Constant nights on the town to the 2 restaurants in town? Are there 2? Are there 2? I feel like I've only seen 1.
Yeah, we've only been to the point.
If I were Sam, I'd say, I'm too old for this high school drama.
Peace.
I mean, I kind of feel bad for Sam a little bit, you know?
Of course.
I mean, is Dell the only playa in town? No, Rita. Sam, Rita's available, baby.
I just feel like this is like that manufactured drama we get there from young girls who are always like, we're going to fight about this.
Yeah.
This is not a real fight.
Yeah. Brittany writes, Dell is reliving her own trauma, and so is Stormy. She's trapped in a grief cycle, and everyone's leaving her again. Wait, Stormy the horse?
Yes, because Stormy is traumatized by the rock, by the woods. Oh my gosh. The path to the pond.
This freaking horse, I'm telling you guys.
Freaking horse. Okie dokie, are you ready? Let's talk about Elliot. Brittany says, I very much disagree that he should be dealing with any of this maturely, especially since he doesn't have anyone to give him counseling or even good parenting, which he should have had a very long time ago. Considering all the trauma and the revelations tied to that trauma, an emotionally abusive dad, a selfish mom who left, an unstable home life, the shock of Alice killing his dream of being the only person who never left him, so huge abandonment issues which never got addressed.
I mean, that's super fair.
I think so too. Brittany says part of Elliot is just wanting what any guy wants, a wife, a family, and to feel secure emotionally in a stable home life. But Kat is not a Band-Aid, and getting married and having children won't fix his issues. That is true too.
I totally agree with that.
Cindy says, I don't understand why so many people are making fun of Elliot this season. I felt like I was listening to middle schoolers. I've seen several interviews with Evan Williams, and you can tell how hard he works to portray Elliot and tell his story all throughout the series, and especially this final season. It makes my heart hurt that all these people are mocking the character when Evan was so excited for people to see his story and work this season.
Thoughts?
We talked about this particular comment before we started recording, and I think there's two important things. One, the actor is not the character. Not liking a character doesn't mean we don't have the most respect for Evan Williams.
Totally.
The other thing is, not all characters are meant to be unflawed. And sometimes the only way we can see the growth of a character is by noticing their flaws. And I think it's okay for Elliot to have a lot of growth. And I think people might be pleasantly surprised by Elliot in the next episode of The Way Home.
Yeah, tune in, guys. You're not going to believe what I have to say.
I hear the criticism, and I don't want to come for an actor that's... There was a comment later in this email that says, you wouldn't come for someone in a movie like this. We would. We've talked a lot about character flaws in the movies, and we're not coming from the actors. And
No,
characters
never.
are flawed. They have problems. Some characters are unlikable intentionally. Sometimes we have a villain, and playing that character well means that the audience doesn't like you. So I hear the criticism that it may come off as criticizing Evan Williams, and that's not my personal intent. And I know that's not your intent.
No, not at all. Never trying to shit on an actor. Never.
As Wendy pointed out, we come for Kat too.
We do. Did I do that? Yeah, every episode we've talked about it.
Yes.
So
These characters are not perfect people.
speaking of Kat,
Yeah.
Jen wrote, that same mentality that she can use the pond to fix things instead of staying in the present and dealing with the fallout has remained. I do think that her not growing is what frustrates people, but I kind of like watching someone so trapped in their trauma. However, as it is the last season, I do think we need to see Kat grow beyond it and finally figure out what she is doing in the present. I agree with that. Francisco writes, she's shutting the Herald down because it wasn't as good as it was when Fern ran it. Fern was running it as if it was page 6. She was hardly the Joan Didion of her day. Did Kat say that? No, wait. Fern likened herself to wanting to be like Joan Didion, right? When they first meet.
Okay.
Do you remember
but
that?
Did Kat say that it's not as good as it used to be?
I can't remember specifically.
And
I think
Fern's
she just
not
was
really running it. She's just running writing the society column.
Right.
It's Grayson's newspaper.
I think Kat is like looking at the Herald and comparing it to 1925 and being like, oh, it was so lively here. Like, because Fern was living there, there was like life there. And when she goes to the Herald, it's just all like archives and mysteries, basically.
Well, and we have the internet. So producing, print media is valuable, but producing a print newspaper in a small town is never going to be as important as it was 100 years ago when it was the sole source of information.
I mean, we've all seen Devil Wears Prada Part 2. I mean, you and I have seen it.
Yeah.
It's the death of print media.
I know. It's kind of sad, actually.
Bums me out.
I
Totally.
know.
I love a good magazine. Okay, moving on. We're still talking about Kat here. Alyssa says, Kat closed the paper. Thank you for finally acknowledging that she is never working. We had the storyline for all of 2 minutes in season 2 where she messed up the paper on Founders Day and then have not really seen her do the job for the last 2 seasons. I agree. This is why I thought that is so weird that they would bring it up again in season 4. Just let it go away unless it plays a role somehow.
Well, I think we just needed to get back into the Herald offices for some reason to be digging through those archives. 'Cause that's where she finds Cassandra, Grayson's sister, and potentially some future information. And not to liken it to Gilmore Girls once again, but it's kind of like the Jackson Town Selectman storyline. We were watching it. My daughter goes, when did Taylor become the town selectman again? I was like, yeah, he just does. They just don't,
Yeah. Finally, Aaron writes, This episode was like a junk drawer, a bunch of stuff that doesn't really go together, but you don't want to throw it out because someday it might be relevant later on. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, this whole season, I think, has been like that.
Yeah. That's what I wonder. It's so interesting to me as a viewer to watch when the shift is going to happen, that they know that this is going to be their last. Because as of right now, I feel like we just have all this buildup and we could continue on.
Sure.
For 2 more seasons with just like all this stuff that they've been adding.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see the shift of like, it's going to be a hard left turn, I think.
I imagine so too, because we're halfway through without any answers.
Right.
Let's talk about Evelyn and the White Witch. Erin says, Evelyn's obsession with the White Witch was noted by Elliot when going through her papers. Is it because the White Witch, Cat, saved her when she was younger or something more? Could Evelyn know more than she's letting on? Erin also says, Alice explaining everything to her could explain why Evelyn left all of her records to the Herald. Perhaps Alice told her that if she did, it would help solve some of the mysteries that have been surrounding Porthaven for centuries. Alice has broken the rules before by telling Colton his future, knowing that he was going to die soon.
I just am floored that you guys have all these details still.
Well, you know what was funny? There was some speculation online that someone was saying, does Alice make it back in time to be with Evelyn when she dies? Because remember in the first season, they have this whole thing about Evelyn dying alone in that house, looking out at the yard. And I wonder if we're going to come back around to that moment.
I don't know. Being up in Evie's tower, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't she die? Like, didn't they say, like, remember those scenes? Like, they had, like, her binoculars and stuff from the window. And then we hear earlier this season, her husband, Ash, tells a story about, like,
jumping from the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's talk Grayson's sister, Cassandra. Erin says, Grayson's sister, Cassandra, how did she die? Why was she brought up? Question mark. I think you guys might get some answers.
Yeah.
Alyssa writes, the fact that Grayson has a missing sister, why do we need another mystery about a missing child? This seems completely unnecessary. Maybe they're setting up season 5 here where they're like, now we're going to try to bring Cassandra home from somewhere. Or is Cassandra dead? I can't remember.
Cassandra died.
Okay. Maybe she's the one that was in the 5 went in, 4 came out.
Oh my God.
No, I don't know.
All right. Regarding the pacing of this season, Jen says, I think the fact that we are in episodes done before they knew they were ending the series, but now watching, we know that it is ending this season, makes it really hard to watch. I do think the last 2 episodes will be very rushed.
That will be terrible, in my opinion.
I mean, if they're rushed, it's right on pace with the rest of this season so far. It's like such a deluge of information.
Yeah.
Francisco says, this was another filler episode. I felt we got next to nothing and now we're going to a new time. Ugh, this season is leaving a lot to be desired. I'm going to start a new email, francisco@girlsgonehallmark.com. No, we appreciate your hot takes.
I like that people are saying if they like it or if they don't like it, right? We all have an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, these are some miscellaneous observations. Shannon from Australia.
Yes.
She writes, finding myself having a bit of a giggle thinking about the show. How on earth is Alice graduating when she surely misses so much school? No one ever queries it. Hey, Alice, where have you been?
What are you doing here, Loca? I don't know why that makes
What is that from?
Oh, Twilight.
Oh, I've never seen Twilight.
Oh, you're missing out on some quality cinema. Yeah, I think that's why most of our activities happen during the summer, other than the first season. We just fast forward through most of the year.
Mm-hmm. Hannah on YouTube. Hey, I love that. Somebody left a comment on YouTube. She writes, so many questions with so little answers. I feel like I'm putting a puzzle together with all sky and grass and no outer edges. Damn, Hannah.
Isn't that's my favorite comment.
Way to be a writer.
I know. I can feel the frustration. There's one more comment that didn't get copied over here. But David on YouTube commented, it's perhaps overblown here, but people in the Atlantic Canada are well known to lustily sing songs like that. He's talking about 5 Women.
Really?
Or, I highly recommend a trip to numerous bars in Halifax or St. John's, for example.
Well, fun.
Yeah.
Well, I love that insight.
I do too.
Because I thought it was like so corny, but if that's like really a thing,
Yeah, great.
great.
Well, thank you for sticking with us through this listener mailbag episode. Thank you for all of your submissions. We look forward to seeing what you have to say after this week's episode. So make sure to send us your emails and your voicemails. Thanks for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark. We'll be back next time with more reviews. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.